25/8 is in the business of time. We help leaders of small and medium-sized businesses work smarter, not harder, so they feel like they have an extra hour in the day and day in the week. Go from don't know what I don't know to I can't miss this show, as we talk proven strategies, practical tips and insider insights from a diverse range of industry leaders. Make time to grow your capabilities and confidence with 25/8. Hi, I'm Sam from 25/8, and today I'm going to talk about the 5 stages of small business growth. We say be not afraid of growing slowly, only of standing still. Now, Harvard Business Review determined there were 5 stages of business growth. This was in 1983. There was 2 people, Neil Seal Churchill and Virginia L. Lewis, and researcher respectively at Caruth Institute of Owner Managed Business at Southern Methodist University. They developed a framework basically to better understand small business, because whilst there had been a lot of research in the past and models for examining business over the years, each used a business size as one dimension and company maturity, or the stage of growth, as a second. And whilst this can be useful, anyone who's ever run a small business knows you can have a 10-year-old business and it still be small in size. You can be small and be successful, and vice versa. So the research at the time basically assumed that you must pass through all these stages of development or die in attempt. They also didn't capture the important early stages, and size was only determined by sales and ignored other factors. Sometimes it would have number of people, but they ignored value added and so forth. So they wanted to develop a framework that was more relevant for small business, and it's still really relevant today. And really, this became the base for 25/8 in which to develop our business and high performance training programs. However, we didn't stop there, so we referenced many other frameworks alongside our research. We have supported tens of thousands of businesses over the 10 years. And so we have collected a lot of data. We've been engaged in research and development for the last 3 years. So we're really, for us, it's really trying to find what the factors, the elements that help a small business become successful, a small business owner. And for us, we determined that it's not just the factors, the leadership factors, essentially the decisions that you make about what to do in your business. It was really down to the individual, the person, the human leading the business as well, because a successful business not only needs someone with the capabilities, the knowledge and the skills to lead, it also needs someone with the confidence to apply those capabilities, to take action, to make quick decisions, which often we're having to do. So we reference frameworks like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and which most of you might be familiar with. So, essentially here you baseline, we get our baseline needs met, our safety needs met, our belongingness, our love needs, our esteem needs, and our self-actualization. You can kind of start to see what this means in business as well. And there's quite a similarity with many of the different stages. If we're in business, we need to make sure we've got money coming in. Then we need to make sure that that money is stable. We need to then make sure that we've got people that can help us grow the business. Then we've got a business that is making impact, it is effective, it's efficient, it's meeting our client needs. And then for us, it's leaving that legacy, what business we leave behind. But we didn't just stop there as well. We referenced a whole heap of leadership development, books, research, including things like Gay Hendricks' The Big Leap, and he talks about stagnancy, so the different levels of success. Mike Michalowicz fixed this next. He looked at only 4 stages. I think there were sales, profit, impact, and legacy. So again, you start to see the patterns emerge for the levels of success, what we want to achieve in business, but also for ourselves personally, what those levels are. And so today I'm going to talk more about these 5 stages so that we can start to understand our place as business owners in this. What I'm going to ask you to do now is identify which stage you think you're at before I go through them in detail. So there's 5 stages according to Harvard Business Review or Churchill and Lewis: existence, survival, success, takeoff, and resource maturity. You can see here on the graph, you've got the age of organization and the size or the dispersion of complexity from small to large. And the line here is that often a young business might be small in size, but also small in complexity, and that sort of grows. So take a moment now to think about what stage do you think you're at. If you're listening to this rather than viewing this, then really, again, there's 5 stages. If you think about the name of the stage: existing, surviving, success, takeoff, or resource maturity, which one do you think your business is at right now? I'll give you a moment. So these are the characteristics. So at the existence stage, stage 1, the management style might be direct. So essentially here, direct supervision of a few subordinates probably. Your systems are minimal, your strategy is to exist, and the business owner is a fundamental aspect of that business. So the smaller circle represents the owner, the larger circle represents the business. I'm going to talk through each of these stages in more detail, but again, thinking what we just thought about there, if it is that we think about our systems, our strategy, the way that the number of staff, the way that we manage, what is it that we have? What do we currently have in our business? And let's see what resonates with us as we move forward. So the existence phase. This obviously is probably when we're just starting out, unless we're very, very fortunate to be successful in some way, in that then I suppose our main problem here are getting customers and delivering a product or a service that we've been engaged for. And our questions that we might ask ourselves are, can we get enough customers? Can we deliver our products or services? Will we get enough money in to become viable? Can we expand from one key customer or a pilot production to process much broader sales base? Do we have enough money to cover the cash demands of this phase? And they are quite demanding. So those thinking about starting a business, thinking about that outlay, there is an outlay to establish the business. And so some of these are the questions that we might have. Do we have enough money to cover the considerable demands of this phase, getting something out into the market? The structure of the business is quite simple. The owner probably does everything or directly supervises a few people underneath who should be of average competence here. They should be able to do something, but you're managing them. The owner manages them. The systems and the formal planning are minimal to non-existent. You're sort of getting going. It can be quite scrappy. You're just getting something out there. And the strategy is simply to remain alive. The owner is the business and they perform most of the important tasks, and you're the major supplier of energy, direction, and potentially capital with friends and relatives potentially. And the businesses that are in this stage range from newly started businesses, restaurants, retail, to high-tech manufacturers that are yet to establish either their production or product quality. Many businesses never gain sufficient customer acceptance or product capability to become viable. So this is where you might hear the term product market fit. And so this is where potentially the demand for what we think our solution isn't there, or it hasn't met the needs of the market. Or it could be that the owner can't meet the demands of the business at this stage because there are a lot of demands. You're having to be a lot of things in a lot of places. And so the owner doesn't accept the demands the business places on their time, their finance, their energy, and they quit. And so those businesses that remain in business go into stage 2. So really surviving the stage takes getting enough customers to become viable, not running out of capital, and being able to accept the demands. So congratulations if you've got this far. The first thing that we think about in the existence phase, the first thing that we want to solve is product market fit. The next phase is survival, where we're surviving. And on reaching this stage, we've basically demonstrated that we've got a workable business entity, that it's viable. We can make this a business. So what we need to do here is problem shifts from existing to the relationship between revenue and expenses. So the main problem or the main issues or questions that we might ask ourselves are, can we generate enough cash to break even and to cover the cost of repair or replacement of capital assets as they wear out? Can we at minimum generate enough cash flow to stay in business and to finance growth to a size that is sufficiently large, given your industry and the opportunity and the niche, to earn an economic return on our assets and labour? We are still quite simple at this stage, and we might have a limited number of employees. We might have employed someone in a supervision role, like a sales manager or a foreman. But neither of them make major decisions independently, and they carry out a well-defined order by the business owner or business leader in this stage. The systems are minimal. Formal planning is at best cash forecasting, and the major goal is still to survive, and the owner is still synonymous with the business. So in this survival stage, we might grow in size and profitability and move on to stage 3. Or it may be, as many businesses do, they remain in the survival stage for some time, earning marginal returns on invested time and capital. And I'll show you a graph on what this looks like shortly. And so what happens is that you might see them eventually go out of business. And so their owner might give up or retire, and the mom and pop stores might be in this category. Maybe manufacturing businesses that can't get their product or process sold as planned, and some of these marginal businesses have developed enough economic viability to be ultimately sold, but usually at a slight loss, or they might fail completely and drop from sight. But those that do survive this stage then moves to stage 3, which is the success stage. Now, this is broken down into 2. This really comes down to the owner. And now what's their decision at this stage? Do you exploit the company's accomplishments and expand? Or do you keep the company stable and profitable, providing a base for alternative owner activities? Do you want the company to use the company as a platform for growth, or do you want to use the company as a means of support as you completely or partially disengage? You might start a new business or pursue some hobbies, build your holiday home, semi-retire, become a politician, all of those other things that might happen at this stage. So the decision is there. The business has reached the success stage. Do you now exploit this success, or do you keep it stable enough for you to use the profits for your own benefit? Neither which is bad, one or the other, but those are the decisions that we make at this stage. So the disengagement stage isn't that you're disengaged necessarily with business, but more that you want to keep the business going to the point where it fuels your personal goals. You've attained a true economic health. It's got sufficient size and product market or service market penetration to ensure the economic success, and it earns usually above average or average profits for the market. You can stay at this stage indefinitely, essentially, provided that nothing changes, no market changes, environmental changes don't destroy the market niche or your value proposition. Or it could be that if ineffective management might reduce your competitive ability. So these are the things that you need to focus on if it is that you're at this stage. The company has grown large enough to, in many cases, require functional managers to take over certain duties that were performed by the owner. So the managers should be competent, but they don't need to be of the highest caliber at this stage, since their upward potential is limited by your corporate goals, the company goals. Cash is plentiful, and the main concern is to avoid a cash drain in really prosperous periods to the detriment of your business's ability to withstand rough times, which inevitably come. As we all know, the last 5 years have shown having these cash reserves during those times is beneficial to every business. So what we see here is that the sort of first professional staff members come on board, usually someone in the office, someone in production, finance, marketing. Planning's in the form of operational budgets, and that supports that functional delegation. And the owner, and to the lesser extent the managers, should be monitoring a strategy to essentially maintain that status quo. And as the business matures, the owner increasingly moves out. And to some extent, because of the owner's activities elsewhere, and because of the presence of other managers, the owner becomes it's less about the owner. And many businesses continue for long periods in this stage, as long as that product market niche permits it. There's no one coming in to steal your market share. There's nothing happening for you to lose customers, for you to lose your position in the market. You can see this in a lot of service-based businesses, slow growing franchise holders where your territory is limited, so you sort of can't grow any further. There's a ceiling to which you get there. And essentially, you might choose this route if you can remove yourself, but keep oversight on those environmental changes. And it could be that you might sell here or merge at a profit. Or, it might be that once you've built your holiday home, you decide that, right, I've had this idea or an opportunity comes up, and then you enter into the next stage. And so here you can then determine whether you go into the growth stage or will you remain at this stage for the remainder of your time in the business and what you do with the business after that. So you continue for a long time. You can choose this route if you oversee those environmental changes. What you need is that effective leadership management who can identify anything, or it could be that you use data. So you've got these dashboards, you can keep your eye on what's happening. You know what those leading indicators are. So if those change, you can come in and ensure something happens. The digital age change. What we know for sure is that change is always certain. So this is something that if you're in this stage and want to stay in this stage, that you have something in place that ensures that you keep your eye on it on a regular, quarterly basis to make sure nothing shifts, because this can happen incrementally. And a year later, the opportunity, someone's come in and you've got to work really hard to build that back up again. So the next stage then is this success growth stage. And here what we do as the owners is we rally everyone for growth. And so what you're doing here is you're taking the cash and the borrowing power of the success of the company, and you put it into financing growth. So high risk, putting it all in, put your chips in, and you're going, right, we're going to look to grow. So it's really important here at this stage that the basic business stays profitable. So you've got this stability, that business stays profitable so that you won't outrun your source of cash, and that your managers are developed enough to meet the needs of the growing business. So here you probably start to hire managers with an eye to the company's future rather than its current condition. So this is where you might hire more ambitious individuals that are attracted by the opportunity of growth, and so that they'll take they're motivated to do that because they can see their path in that growth. And so really we should have systems here with attention to forthcoming needs. What is it that we need in the future? We are planning operationally. We've got budgets, strategic planning. Strategic planning is quite extensive. It deeply involves the owner here. The owner is far more active in all phases of the company. This is an exciting phase, I think, as well. And so, less so than the disengaging, back in, starting to think about, what do we do now? I was talking to someone the other day that inherited his father's business, and so he grew the business to a certain phase and sold it. But what he's seen now is an opportunity based on what this other, who he sold it to, what they're not doing. And so he's come back into the business and he's looking to capitalize on this gap that the people that bought the original business are not servicing. So it's really about then going back in and using your smarts, your understanding of the market, what you're going to do, and putting it in there. So really what we want to ensure, though, is that the resources that we put into this stage are surplus. So as we're saying, we've got that really base level business that's supporting this growth. If it is successful, then we move to the next stage. But sometimes the first attempt at growing before getting to this growth stage is unsuccessful, and we might head back to the survival stage. And so we might, our attempt to grow might actually end us back in the survival stage. And sometimes if it's been really unsuccessful, it might lead to bankruptcy or a distress sale, which sometimes we see, again, if we see those market changes that happen and, through no fault of the owner necessarily, it's just that the bet, putting the chips in for this area of growth, has not paid off. However, if we are successful, if our bet has paid off, then we go to the next stage, which is takeoff stage. So our main problems here is how to grow rapidly and how to finance that growth. So our most important questions then center around delegation. Can we delegate responsibility to others to improve the managerial effectiveness of our fast-growing and increasingly complex business, our enterprise? Will that be true delegation with controls on performance and a willingness to see mistakes made? Or will it be abdication, as so often is the case? Cash is the second thing. We need to look to make sure there's enough to satisfy, as we know from the really early stages, what we have to put in to get things going. We need to put in because especially this type of growth demands that cash. And so really it's a willingness on the owner's part to tolerate that high debt equity ratio and the cash flow that's not eroded by inadequate expense controls or ill-advised investments that sometimes come because the owner's been impatient. So it's really important here that we continue to think strategically. We continue to think before we move, and we're not making those impulse or impatient decisions that might impact our cash flow. What we see here in terms of the structure is that this is when, the original owner or the original entrepreneur is replaced by the investors, and they might employ someone else in the business. They might employ a CEO or someone else, or they might suggest other leadership team to come in and to help take this business to the next stage. And often we need the investment in our business at this stage in order to get to fuel the growth that we need. And what we see in today's market is that this is often where, from product market fit, that existing stage, we actually start to see the startups, the tech-based businesses with investment, they go straight to this stage. They might go straight to this stage or the stage before because they've got cash flow. And so they're trying to fuel high growth. And so the investment has meant that they've sort of skipped all the other stages and they're in takeoff. They're having to do this really quickly. So it's definitely possible to do this with the original management. But as I say, often you'll probably bring people in that are more experienced at taking the businesses to this next stage, or getting them through this stage is probably more appropriate. And so again, if the business doesn't make it, similar to the success growth stage, then it could drop back. It might, if you're clever, if you're strategic, if you've watched cash flow, then you might drop back to the success stage, and you might go into disengagement because you've sort of put your chips in and it didn't work out. Or it could be, you try again. Okay, that didn't work, we try again. Or if it didn't work, it could go to the survival stage. And at worst, it might fail. And so economic conditions, high interest rates definitely have impacted us recently, but we're real in the 90s as well. And so this is the rise and fall of small business. However, if we do make it through this stage, if we get through the takeoff stage, then we reach resource maturity. And our resource maturity problems are really about how to consolidate and control financial gains brought by this rapid growth, and to retain our advantage of our small size, our agility, our flexibility of response, and our entrepreneurial spirit, but also being a larger enterprise and the complexity that brings. You've got to expand usually management, and you've got to eliminate efficiencies. You've got to look at those systems that you had in place. You might have cost system. You should have systems in place in all of your operational departments, however you operate. And essentially the company needs to be really strategic. This isn't to say you spend hours and hours in strategy meetings, but you're using tools, you're using your budgets, you are strategic planning, you are managing by objectives, you are looking at your cost centers, you've got data, and doing this without stifling the entrepreneurial qualities that a small to medium-sized business has, and our ability to adapt quickly to market changes. So here the company has arrived. Do we have the staff and financial resources to engage in the detailed operational or strategic planning? Do we have a way to ensure that we think innovatively, that we don't stagnate in this market, that we're always ahead of our competitors, that we're always thinking the next step, what next? How do we ensure that our business remains sustainable, relevant to the market, and ahead at what it does? And here I suppose that ossification might be characterized by that lack of innovative decision making and avoidance of risk. We see this, and this could bring another change of management here. How do you ensure that this entity, this enterprise that you've built remains relevant, remains innovative in the market? And it's so important in today's world that we are constantly thinking about what the changes will mean for our business. And the common challenges for large corporates, large businesses, they've got big market share, they've got buying power, they've got financial resources that keep them viable. But, that they're often really slow to change. There's a lot of bureaucracy, the red tape, and they don't notice environmental changes until the last minute. So really here we need to be really conscious, really innovative in our leadership. And so for those watching, you'll be able to see the characteristics of each stage. And for those listening, I highly recommend you at some stage watch the recording so that you can see the graphs on the screen, or go to Harvard Business Review and the 5 stages of business growth. But what you can see here is relevant to the management factors of each stage. So as you're managers of the business, the factors change in importance as the business grows and develops. So what might be really important in the early stages is not as important in later stages. And through their research, Lewis and Churchill determined there were 8 factors, 4 of which relate to the enterprise and 4 to the owner. And the 4 that relate to the business are financial resources, including cash and borrowing power, personnel resourcing, relating to people, the numbers, the depth, the quality of people, particularly at the management level. Essentially, Early stages is getting people in that can do. Later stages is getting people in that can make decisions in order for that to take that away from the owners. What you'll find, and this is really interesting to see in the startup space as well, is that in the early stages, you need people that can put their hand to everything and anything. But in the later stages, you really need specialists. You really need people that are able to bring that specialism to different roles. And so growing pains of business often sees that some people will naturally fall, even if they've been with the business a long time. And transitions of staff is really natural for business as well. It's not natural to keep people for a very long period of time. And often, and I've seen this in larger corporates from my experience, when they've been there a long time, then the people stagnate. They're so attached to a different way of working. And so really business is an evolution. And as we grow, what you need, what the people you need will grow, and their needs grow as well. Those that aren't as growth oriented might be happy in a different position where there's less pressure to perform. And so it just makes sense for people to find their natural spot with the right business and on the right journey with them. So people is a massive thing. And what I think I see a lot is once we've got the sales and the finances sorted, the people is the next problem, and the systems is the next problem, which is the next factor. And so the degree of sophistication of your systems, both for informing and planning and controlling and delivering, are really key. And though they can build efficiencies, but they can build autonomy, and they can help those other stages for you as well. Those systems of scale are really important throughout the stages. And really what they recognized here in existence stage, there was no system, but we can build systems that don't take a lot of our time, that provide the foundations in which to build better systems as we grow. And then the fourth factor for the business was business resources. So customer relations, market share, supplier relations, it might be processes, the technology, your reputation, all the things that determine your position in your industry or market. And then the four factors that relate to the owner are your goals for yourself and for the business, your ability in doing important jobs, especially in those early stages, such as marketing or inventing or producing or managing. And so where do your abilities lie? And that will help you determine then what are the gaps and where you need them in those early stages in order for you to get to the next stage. And then your managerial ability and your willingness to delegate responsibility and then manage those activities of others. And this is, again, where I see a lot of growing pains. And this is where we help a lot of people where they're transitioning from so they're going through the success, they're going through the growth phase, but they're having to transition the people. And this is one of the hardest things to do and do alone. So how do you transition and build yourself up as a manager before you've been so used to just having such a hands-on role and doing all the things, and really now we need you to move away from the business and to hand things over. And how do you do that such that you don't have to worry that they're doing it properly? So that's a really key aspect to our growing pains. And then our strategic abilities. So what we need the leader to do here is look beyond the present and understand your strengths, understand your weaknesses as a business, as an owner, as a leader, and then determine what all of those things mean against your own goals, your personal aspirations, and the goals for the business. And if there's anyone else involved in the business, any other stakeholders or investors, and bringing those on board as well. And so as a business moves from one stage to another, the importance of those factors change. And so they alternate among three levels of importance. So modestly irrelevant or a natural byproduct, important but managed, and critical to the company. And so the first the key variables that are absolutely essential for success are the ones that receive high priority at those different stages. What are we thinking? What are we thinking now in terms of where we are at as a business? What stage do we think we're at? And when we think about our own managerial capabilities, our own abilities to lead a business, where do they lie? What's our own ability to give life to the business at those other stages? A lot of the time, a small business is built on the talents of the owner in those early stages, their ability to sell, their ability to produce, their ability to invent. And so really, if it is that you know you're not as good at sales, then you either need help to get good, or you need to bring someone in, if you can afford it, that can bring those sales in for you. And so making these decisions, there's key decisions along the way, key things to focus on. And that's the other thing with small business. There's so much we can focus on. It's determining the most important thing to focus on now, because even when we're at resource maturity, there is so much for us to do. It's really important for us to focus still there. So building that focus on the most important thing for you as a business against the business goals, relevant to the stage, relevant to what you want within there, and in line with all the other things like stakeholder and investment management and market opportunity and changes and all those other things that go into understanding business. So 4 factors for you to consider: your goals for yourself and your business, your operational abilities, your managerial ability, and your strategic abilities. So how would you rate yourself on those? That is the end of the 5 stages of business. And so really to end this session with me today, hopefully it's provoked some thought for you around your business and what you think you need to do now to get to the next stage, regardless of what stage you're at. If you want to really determine your stage of growth, then we have a stage of growth quiz. It's really fun. It's not as in-depth as our diagnostic tools, but it will give you an understanding. I'll pop that into our show notes. I highly recommend you do that. You'll then receive emails that help you determine some of those next steps, what you can focus on to help you get to those next stage. As mentioned, 25/8, we focus our business programs and our high performance training on helping those reach the next stage, either highly personalized through our level up programs or through a specific outcome like our industry growth or a next level growth programs. Really for us, is identifying what's important for you personally. And so there's no business course, there's no blueprint, there's nothing out there on this market that will help you determine that other than you. And so it's providing you with the tools to know what to do next based on what's most important to getting the business to the next stage and you to reach your personal goals. Thanks for listening or watching, and I look forward to the next time. Thanks. Thanks for listening to Make Time, a business podcast by 25/8. If you like the show, please take a moment to write a review and feedback on what you'd like to hear next. If you never want to miss an episode, hit subscribe or follow on your favourite listening channel. If you want to get even smarter, join our newsletter, community, or take one of our programs. Links down below. See you next time.